debating metalheads. Welcome to another exciting episode of Debating Metal. I'm Kenneth Dean, a Dean of Metal, and my illustrious co-host is Chris K. On this episode, we're going to be tackling a new topic that for some of our listeners will bring you back down memory lane. One of our favorite personal pastimes as kids, listening to music, was making mixtapes.
This may be a lost art today, but in the past, if we wanted to take music on the go, cassettes were about the only option. Limited to 60 or 90 minutes, and a lot of recording in real time, we had to be strategic and put together awesome mixtapes. A lot of times it took planning, others, you might accidentally cut off your last song by not planning it out. We made mixtapes for fun, road trips, or for the girl we liked in school. Today we're going to relive the good old days and put together the metal mixtapes we would have made in one of the greatest years of metal.
It's 1986 all over again, so sit back, relax, turn it up to 11, and let the mix begin. Okay, so we're going to do one of those before we begin things, okay? Since we're catching everyone's attention right here at the beginning of the show, we're going to talk about swag for a few minutes here. So the funny thing is, Chris, you and I have had this conversation kind of every so often. We always remind each other, man, we never made that t-shirt. We never made a t-shirt. We never made a t-shirt. So we're finally going to be making a t-shirt. So that being said, we want our listeners, our dear friends out there in the ether, listening to the show,
or the Ethernet, as some say.
Yes, some say the Ethernet. Let us know if you want to buy a t-shirt. So you can send us a direct message or email us at debatingmetal@gmail.com and let us know, hey, I'd like a t-shirt. Tell us your size. I'm going to guess right now, I don't know exactly what it's going to cost, but I'm going to guess it's going to be somewhere between $20 and $25. Not really very expensive, so it should be a pretty good deal. You get to walk around with Debating Metal on your t-shirt. You know, you can wear it to your favorite concert, and people will ask, what's that? And then you tell them, and you let them know, hey, this is your favorite podcast that you listen to. You can lie to them all you want. So we also
this is a podcast I listen to.
We also we have had stickers for a while. We've sent them out a few times. We want to do it again. I still owe I think his name is Tommy from Finland, I want to say. I still owe him a sticker. And our German friend, I can't remember his name now.
That's not Christoph, is it?
Yes, Christoph.
Okay.
Yes. So I still owe Christoph in Germany, and I still owe Tommy. I believe you're in Finland. If I'm wrong, you can let me know. Send me a direct message, whatever. I still owe you two guys stickers. I have not forgotten. I know it's been 2 years, 3 years maybe, but I have not forgotten about the fact that I offered you guys stickers. But anyway, for everybody else, if you buy a t-shirt, you will get some stickers along with that. If you don't buy a t-shirt, but you still want stickers, send me your address and we'll get some out to you guys. All right.
And I have some Pokemon stickers, which I have no interest in Pokemon. I'll give those to you as well.
Nice. So you get yourself some Pokemon stickers along with the
First come,
metal.
first serve. I got them in a box that I bought something recently. I'm like, what the hell is this? So
nice. I got extra Yeti stickers, you know.
Yeah.
All right. Well, that's our few minutes of talking about swag. So yeah, give us your address. Let us know your shirt size. And I will, if we get like, you know, because depending if I only get 5, you know, shirt requests or I get 25 shirt requests, the price could change. So I'll let you know. And then from there, I'll announce it again on the next episode or next couple episodes, and then we'll go from there. So hopefully we'll get a whole bunch of people that will be wanting some t-shirts. Speaking of which, Chris, I was looking at the statistics today for our show.
Mm-hmm.
And I believe it's this past month. I don't want to where our audience comes from. And I got to show you this tomorrow, but we have
Let me guess. Like number one is number one U.S.
It is the U.S.
Number two, is it in Europe?
Yes, seven. So the U.S. accounts for 73% of our listeners. So that
Okay.
means that the rest of the world accounts for 26.76% of our
Okay.
listeners. So that's not bad. I mean, that's a global following.
I'd like
So,
it to be bigger, but I don't get much of a choice in that.
so yeah. So the UK is number two,
Okay.
with 7%.
That was my guess.
And then our friend Christoph, his country of Germany, is next with 5% of our listeners. And
Okay,
then
no.
our dear friends to the north, the Canadians, they're 2.89% of our listeners. Then
Okay.
we've got Sweden at 2.7, and then it goes down from there, and we have France, Australia, Russia, Ecuador, Mexico, Norway, Austria, Japan, the Netherlands, New Zealand, Afghanistan. We've got one download from Afghanistan.
Just one.
Yeah, just
Okay.
got one, and I think it's just one for the last month. So,
Oh,
um,
okay. Gotcha.
we got Switzerland, Algeria, Spain, Italy, Jordan, Latvia, Portugal, Suriname, or I think is how you say it. I'm sorry if I pronounce it wrong, and South Africa. So that's
Okay.
where everyone's listening. That's pretty cool. Um, you know, that's a pretty neat little thing. I love these little tiny um, uh,
We need to get the word out in
statistics.
Uganda.
Yes, we do. I don't know how, but we will. And so here's a really interesting thing too. Looking at these sets, they tell you what platforms they listen to. People listen to us on. So
Okay.
37% of our listeners listen to us on an Android,
Okay.
and 28.5% of our listeners listen to us on iOS.
It's
Which
good
is
people. Good people. The Android people.
and then 7.59 listen to us on Windows, which uh, so I mean it could be like a Surface tablet
Okay.
or laptop, but I don't think there's any phones that are Windows phones, are there?
Yeah. There's Windows phones.
There's a Windows phone. Okay, so
I
that
mean,
might
there
be.
were at one point. I don't know if there
I
still
don't.
are.
I mean, I haven't heard of them in long, in forever. And then there's Mac OS X, which I mean, those are the Mac users.
Okay.
That's 4%. And then we got some people who listen to us on Alexa or on iPad OS.
Alexa.
And
Okay. Interesting.
then, and then 20% of us just listen to us on some unknown device.
They're listening on like a BlackBerry.
BlackBerry. Wow.
What was the one before the BlackBerry? The Palm Pilot.
Um. Yes, I had a Palm Pilot. I had one of the first ones that were like a phone and a Palm Pilot.
Or what was that in the 90s? There was this little thing that it had it looked like a little tiny CD player, but it was like these little squares that were cartridges, and you'd put it in. It'd play about 30 seconds of a Britney Spears song or a boy band song. And
Mm.
my sister had it, and it was such a lame gimmick, but they're recording it on those and they're using it.
I know there was a little thing in the 90s that was similar to what you're talking about, like a little cartridge, but it was an actual full blown album. And Sony was a big marketer of this, and I cannot remember what that format was called, but it was digital.
Hmm.
Um, but it was if I remember it, if I look it up, I'll discuss it, and if not, I'll discuss it next week. But it was very small. It was like this, like the size smaller than a credit card, like a square credit card size.
Hmm.
All right, so some other statistics before we get on with the show. Amazon is the number one platform that which people listen to us on. Amazon Music podcasts.
Oh, okay. That's what I use.
Number two would be Apple Podcasts. Number three, Spotify. Number four, SiriusXM. And wow, I didn't know that. Then
And
Pandora.
before anybody says anything, I don't listen to our podcast. So so don't say like I'm the number one listener or something.
Well, and that's the funny thing because I'm the opposite of you. I have to listen to it because I edit it as well. But so then, so of course, whenever I publish it, then I'm like, ooh, it just came out this morning, and I will actually play and listen to the first few minutes of it. I'm like the first or second download of the show. iOS player, Google Chrome, Windows Media Player, Podbean app. So we're hosted by Podbean, and so 3.9% of our listeners listen to us on the Podbean app. Safari, Harley, Podcast Addict, Alexa enabled device, Edge, Podcast Republic, Android Player. I mean, there's a lot of stuff here.
I didn't even know there was that many.
Winamp. I did not realize Winamp still existed. iHeartRadio, Audible. Oh, we're on Audible. That's cool. This is a pretty cool little thing when you look at the statistics. Anyway, we had some fun here.
Nobody's downloading us on Napster.
No, because we're not Metallica.
They're the only one downloaded on Napster now.
Apparently. All right. So mixtapes. So the year that we're going to talk about was the year that you were born.
That is correct. It is a great year.
So like you really didn't make a mixtape in 86.
No. Of course not. I mean, it probably would have been 5 or 6 the first time I ever did. And it mostly would have been obviously recorded on the radio. I was a pretty smart kid. I think I'm still pretty smart. I don't know. I question it more every day. But we had a little, it was a Sony recorder, and it was silver. And my sister and I were like able to use it, and we would record songs off of the radio and make our little, mixtapes. And I had a little Sony Walkman that was silver as well. And then I dropped it in the toilet, and then I had to get a new one.
My first, so the first attempt at making sort of kind of like mixtapes, I had a stereo at home that had like no, I don't want to say removable speakers. They just had 2 speakers on the side. It was one of these like little things you buy. There's a cheap little record player, and it comes with 2 speakers. And I literally would put my cassette. My mom gave me this portable cassette recorder player thing, and I would put that right up against the speaker. So the stuff I listened to sounded like shit for the first few year or so. And then I figured out, I can upgrade the stereo and I can upgrade my equipment and stuff like that. And as I got older, I did. But yeah, my first one, I mean, I'm probably 9-10 years old listening to this stuff, and it sounds like ass. It sounds like a tin shoebox or whatever. And then I started working in the summer camp that I had been attending every summer. And so I'm 13 years old, and I'm making a crisp $50 for the month of July.
Ooh.
And $50 for the month of August. Clean $100. Literally $50 for a month of working at the camp. Now, I was a junior counselor, so I was really just kind of going to camp and hanging around, and that was it. I was getting paid $50 a month to come to camp instead of to actually pay the camp to bring, to house me or whatever you want to call it. So anyway, then a couple summers later, I was making a little bit more money, like, maybe $150 a month or something like that. I saved my money to get a stereo, my first stereo that I can actually say was mine. And I started making tapes left and right.
It was a good time. I remember, like, I'd be, doing something, probably playing with toys or something like that, and then a song would come on, and so you'd miss like the first few seconds of it if you were recording from the radio. Um, but yeah, I mean, it was what we had. Like we didn't have a lot of money growing up, so that was the way to do it.
And it's a funny thing because it's like, that's the same type of method that I used. Like when I finally had it was like a little boom box I had, and so
Mhm.
you could immediately hit record on the cassette player or the cassette recorder portion, and while the radio is playing, so you just like boom, hit the radio and you go. Or if you were really good, you'd have it already recording and just press pause, and then you can unpause, and it's a lot quicker, right?
Yeah.
And I made mixtapes on mostly just Kiss for the longest time. But then, I started expanding my circle of music.
As we do. I mean, when I first existed, I didn't listen to a lot of metal.
First existed.
But then I reached, my preteens and I became a metalhead. So, our tastes evolve is my point.
We begin to exist.
Yeah.
Well, tonight, the premise of our show tonight, mixtapes. We're 1986. So we're going to basically look into what it would be like to make a mixtape from 1986 of the bands that we like, we currently like now, because obviously it wasn't, back then. A lot of these bands were obviously, they released albums in 86. This is what we're choosing, but I may not have listened to them all. You definitely didn't listen to them in 86. So
I
it's,
was listening to Slayer in the womb.
yes, I'm sure your mom was
My
listening to
my
Slayer.
mom would put the headphones on her belly and
She
it was
put that
like,
brand new album, Rain and
yeah, it
Blood,
was just the scream.
on. So, but we're gonna do it in the style of this. We have, what do we say, a 90-minute tape? Yeah. So we're making a 90-minute cassette.
What? I thought we did 60.
No, it's 90.
No, I even have a text message saying 60.
Really?
Yeah.
Shit on me. Because now I gotta cut out songs.
Fuck. Like you said 60 minutes
Oh, it's funny because I say we keep it to 60 minutes because
because of the length. I say we keep it to 60 minutes.
yeah, I
because
see
of
that.
the show.
And I literally made it's like 44 minutes and 13 seconds. All right.
I mean, you can do that. That's fine. Like, it's kind of funny.
Fuck me. I made mine 45 minutes. You got a 60, I got a 90-minute cassette.
Okay. Okay. Well, I mean, I guess let's do it that way. That's really funny because we talked about this, and I had originally said like a TDK 60-minute tape, and you said TDK night or D90, right? And then
Yes.
and then you changed your mind. You're like, you know what? Let's keep it 60 minutes, and then you did the 90-minute.
So anyway, so we'll do, you have a 60-minute and I have a 90-minute. Sorry for those people out there who have to get subjected to this.
Well, let's do it this way. Let's each do our side A, and
Right.
then we'll just kind of talk about the songs and stuff like that. So, do you want to go first? Me go first?
Um, you go first because I've been talking a lot lately.
Okay. All right. So, this took a little work. Obviously, like you got a plan for 60 minutes or 90 minutes, depending.
or 90.
And so, with the cassette, it's obviously different than just throwing together a playlist and on a MP3 player or your phone. Does anybody have MP3 players anymore? But obviously like your phone, right? So you can just put as many songs on there as you want, but when you're working with a cassette, you got to have two sides. You got to have 30 and 30, 45, 45, whatever it may be. So, um, I tend to I, I have some songs that are predictable, but I also have some deep cuts that I don't know how people are going to perceive it, but this is how I would put one together. I spent a lot of time arranging the order and really thinking about what goes on each side, but then I'd go, crap, well, it's not going to fit this way. So I actually filled exactly um, 30 minutes on this side. So, and technically it would go like 1 second over, but it was 1 second of silence, so I don't really care. Um, so if it was a CD, it wouldn't work that way. So we may do this in the future, like we do mixed CDs in the 2000s, but since we're 86, let's do cassettes, obviously. So, side A, I'm starting with Postmortem from Slayer. I know that's kind of a weird one. A lot of people would probably pick Rain and Blood or Angel of Death. I've always loved Postmortem. I think it's a really cool song. It's a great lead-in to Rain and Blood, and just the rhythm of it. And I mean, for me, one of my biggest draws to Slayer is Dave Lombardo's drumming, and I actually listened to the whole album on my way home today, and it
Because you
just
can. It's only 28 minutes.
yeah. um, and it was just one of those things like it always reminds me how much I love his drumming and just that how awesome that album is. So I know it's a little bit of a deep cut, but I think it's a really cool way to start it off. However, Postmortem ends kind of abruptly because it goes into the next song. Well, I picked number two, or my track two is Secret Loser from Ozzy Osbourne. It's a song I've always liked ever since I watched. Oh man, what was that Charlie Sheen movie called? He plays a biker who's like a ghost, and I'm trying to remember the freaking name. But I've always liked that song. I always thought it was really cool, and we talked about it when we did our Ultimate Sin versus Bark at the Moon episode, long time ago. But I think it's just like that would like when you put those together, I thought that the lead in from Postmortem went really well right into Secret Loser. um Track three, I've got Inside the Electric Circus from Wasp. um I went with something really kind of fast and heavy and then slowed it down maybe just slightly to Secret Loser, and then Electric Circus is kind of like a big, kind of bombastic song. It's probably the biggest song on that album that it came from, which is the same album, or album of the same name. Um, and I always like early Wasp is just fantastic, and it's not my favorite album from them, but this is my favorite track from that album. Then after that, I went into Walk in the Shadows from Queensryche. If you've been listening for a long time, I wasn't the biggest Queensryche fan. I became much more of a fan by doing the show. But and that song is probably, if not my favorite, one of my favorites of theirs. I think it's one of their best albums, Rage for Order. Um, and we got to see the new lineup do it at one of the shows we went to, and I mean, Todd Latore's great, but young Jeff Tate, man, it's just his control, his ability. Like he's still great today as a singer. I mean, like him or hate him, but when he was on top of his game back when this album came out, I mean, it was just phenomenal. Um, Track five is 5150 from Van Halen. Um, Now, a lot of people probably, unless maybe like you had the DVD of Live Without a Net, um, it's probably not one of the biggest Van Halen songs for you. But for me, I love everything about it. I was so excited when we got to see Sammy Hagar this most recent tour. They actually played this song, which I was just, I mean, you saw, I was blown away. I was so excited. So
Yes, you were.
I mean, yeah, it's one of those songs that always sticks with me. When you put in the Live Without a Net DVD, that's the song that's in the background for the menu, and I think that's one of the reasons it really appealed to me. I think that's probably my favorite live DVD, or cassette or whatever it may be, but like the DVD specifically, it's probably my favorite live performance recorded to watch on home video. Um, then I went into Damage Incorporated from Metallica. I know a lot of people probably pick Master of Puppets or any number. I mean, pretty much you could pretty much pick any song from that album. But for me, um, I was kind of thinking, placement. I waffled back and forth between different songs. At one point I had Master of Puppets on here. Um, at one point, I had Battery on here, but I ended up with Damage Incorporated because I kind of liked how it sounded and in placement with this. And I could never kind of find a place where I wanted Master of Puppets. So I ended up with Damage Incorporated, and I really like the placement here. And then for the final track on side A, which at 3 minutes and 30 seconds, it like I said, it's exactly right at 60 minutes. I've got Princes of the Universe from Queen. The significance there is that I grew up watching Highlander the series, and that was the theme song from not only the first movie but the series. And it's one of those that, like, yeah, it's not like heavy or anything like that, but I think it's a cool song to end a side on. Like, I would never place it in the middle of any of this stuff because obviously, like, like playing a lot of heavier stuff. Obviously, 5150 is not super heavy or anything, but Eddie's guitar kind of fits in with a lot of this stuff. But then Princes of the Universe is almost a little jokey in a way, and but it's such a badass song, and it fits really well with like Highlander. But it has meaning to me, so I think it was a cool way to end it in a band that I wouldn't probably put on a lot of playlists. So
That sounds pretty cool. The Queen took me for a loop there. I'm surprised by that. Not because I don't think you like Queen, but because it was one of those where um
you probably wouldn't
I
immediately think that was something that I would pick.
yeah, exactly. I'm not thinking about that. But it's like, in 1986 Queen was not necessarily at their peak,
They're
but
winding down, yeah.
they were winding down. Now, question for you on the Wasp inside the Electric Circus, is that including the intro or not including the intro?
Not including the intro, just
Not including the intro. Okay.
yeah. So I'm at like if I run down the times, it's like 327, 408, 406, 332, 544, 513, and 330, and it just comes right out to, let's say, in seconds, 1800 seconds, so 60 minutes. I mean, sorry, it's not 60 minutes, 30 minutes. So it is exactly how long it needs to be.
right, which is weird, because I showed you a program,
Uh-huh.
or gave you a central program that went through the times and stuff like that, and I'm trying to follow along, and I have it at 30 minutes and 3 seconds is what, based on the times I'm looking at on Wikipedia, which is pretty much spot on.
I'm going off of my MP3s though.
Right.
And so yeah, I mean, if it's 3 seconds over, then I mean, a lot of times, I mean, and think of it in the concept of cassettes. Like, as soon as the silence goes, there's no reason to keep recording, right?
Right,
So
exactly.
cassettes were a lot easier to use in that way, and you could even, like, to some degree, you could even edit, where with CDs you had to have like an editing software and change things. So in that way, cassettes were easier to work with.
Oh yeah. In certain ways, they were definitely easier. Well, I like it, and it's funny. I see a lot of bands and a lot of songs that I may or may not have chosen. so,
All right.
so
I'm interested to see how much we cross over.
yes, I'm interested too. So here's the funny thing. So I approached this, and this is the way I've always approached a lot of the way I make a mixtape or a greatest hits or something like that. I do it as if I'm listening. I want to listen to a concert, right? So what's gonna get me riled up, and what's gonna be the ending song? Now, in this particular case, um, and it's weird because it works out a little bit differently because I ended up going a little bit longer than you. Um, dumbass that I am.
Only 30 minutes.
Yeah. Um, I made a series of CDs when I was younger called Heavy Metal from Hell. It was kind of a take on the name of the radio show I used to listen to right before I moved from New York to Florida. And they always played, like when we used to do a segment when we first started our first year, we used to do a segment called Rusty Metal, and I would talk about a lot of the old metal stuff that I used to listen to in the 80s. They had the same segment. What was funny was they played a song. I listened to it. I have one show. It's the original first episode. I put it on CD, and their Rusty Metal was an Aerosmith song that was probably 10 years old at that point. You know, He's like, they did Rusty Metal, and he's like, they played I think it was Draw the Line from Aerosmith, and I'm like thinking, wow, they thought that was old, 10 years earlier, but whatever. So what I did was I made with the CDs, I made a heavy side and a hard side. And so the hard side, or depending on which one I would look at, I guess the hard side was more in terms of hard rock. The heavy side was more in terms of heavy metal, right?
Mm-hmm.
So in this case, side one for me is the heavy side. It's the heavy metal side. It's the thrash side, and side two is going to be more of the no, no, it's going to be more of the glam rock, more of the hard rock kind of stuff.
Okay.
So, with that being said, side one of my mixtape from 1986 would start off with Slayer, but it's going to start off with Angel of Death.
Funny enough, we both started with Slayer.
Yes, we both started with Slayer. Now, here's the funny thing with Slayer. Like, when that album came out, and I'm sure the same way you felt about it when you listen to it today, it's an amazing album. I mean, you go straight through, it's 28 minutes long, and it's like relentless. And it's basically bookended by the two best songs on the album, right? And then there's stuff in between. But you pull out Post Mortem as a deep track because that's what attracted you. That's what took you in. But Angel of Death is one of those songs I could still sing the lyrics to today. And it's one of those songs I just don't forget the words. I love the breakdown where, it's just where Dave Lombardo goes into his drum break. The scream at the beginning. I mean, it's just everything about that song I like. Love, whatever you want to call it. And so that was my first song. Then song number 2 for me, I go into King Diamond, Halloween. He had just released his first album that year. He had released an EP, No Presents for Christmas, the winter before. And now he comes out with Halloween off the Fatal Portrait album. That song, I mean, it's killer riff. And just the fact that, I mean, I had heard and learned about Merciful Fate, and I wanted to hear more. And I'm like, Merciful Fate's done. They had been done for about 2 years at that point. I'm like, well, what do I do now? And then all of a sudden, boom, out comes King Diamond with this. And it was great. Album was pretty cool. Never really got into the whole album. We did do a review on the album a couple years ago on the show. I think it was a head-to-head. But
Yeah, I believe it was Don't Break the Oath versus Fatal
right.
Portrait.
Yes, right. So it was one of those things where that was really my first dive into King Diamond, because I had heard some Merciful Fate, but I wasn't completely, you know, I knew that they were over with, but I don't think I had gotten Don't Break the Oath yet. So I don't remember exactly how the whole sequence went, because that was a really dark period of music that I was listening to. I got into in 86, 87. All right, number 3. And yes, I threw this on the heavy side, but I didn't have much of a choice. Judas Priest with Locked In from Turbo.
It's heavy.
I mean,
It's not a bad song.
it's going to be the heaviest song on the album. The riff is killer. It's not as
You mean from Judas Priest album?
from that album.
Yeah, I thought you meant on yours. I was like,
No. From
Angel
Turbo.
of Death is definitely
Yeah. No, from Turbo. That is the heaviest song on Turbo.
Yeah, agreed.
So I picked that one. All right, that's number 3. Number 4, Iron Maiden, Wasted Years. So somewhere in time when it was released, hit me weird. Coming off of Power Slave in 1984, then they go on tour. They had the World Slavery Tour. I see them in 1985. They released Live After Death. I'm full blown deep dive into Iron Maiden, and they come out with Somewhere in Time. Now, at the time, you also have to look at it's like, I know this is your favorite album. There's many reasons why it's your favorite album, but at the time that album came out, I remember, the documentary Iron Maiden Behind the Iron Curtain, and some guy from Poland asks Bruce Dickinson, I want to play heavy metal with the keyboards. And Bruce is like, you can't play heavy metal with keyboards, right? Really bad accents, but regardless. And then all of a sudden,
offended all of our European listeners.
Yeah, I know. I don't mean to offend. Whatever. Sorry.
I think it's fine though. With all offense.
That's the way I heard it.
That's why.
So anyhow, so this Polish guy wants to play heavy metal with keyboards. Bruce Dickinson tells him he can't, and then Iron Maiden goes ahead and releases an album where they're using synthesizer guitars. Okay, so they're using synthesizers. They're using synths of some sort, and it took most fans at first aback. I mean, it was a little bit of a shock, but after you listen to it and you kind of absorb it a little bit, Wasted Years being the first single, Wasted Years doesn't sound as synthy as, let's say, the beginning of Caught Somewhere in Time, where it starts with that synth guitar.
Mm-hmm.
But Wasted Years starts with a guitar riff that Adrian plays, and then it goes, then the singles, got Stranger in Strangeland, you got Heaven Can Wait. But so this one, Wasted Years, to me is like, all right, I'm going to go with that song. It was the single, and at that point, I didn't like Stranger in Strangeland. It was just too slow for me. Heaven Can Wait was cool. I liked that one. I went back and forth, but Wasted Years is the one that kind of stuck with me.
Yeah.
All right, number 5, a band called Exciter. I'm pretty sure there's someone out there who knows who Exciter is. They still exist in a weird way. They've had member changes left and right. This was the album. What was it called? Wicked, Unveiling the Wicked. And this is the song I Hate School Rules. It was played on that show that I listened to, and the song is super cool. Guy screaming throughout the whole thing. I don't know how he doesn't rip his vocal cords, at the end of the song, but otherwise, very, very cool song. Number 6, Metal Church, Start the Fire, Off of the Dark. Metal Church was, basically riding the success of their debut album. They got the second album, and it was still relatively successful, probably a little bit poppier. It had a metal ballad on it with When the Children Pray, or Watch the Children Pray. And then, but they also had Ton of Bricks, Start the Fire, and something I forgot, the one at the end of the album was really good. Anyway, trying to do this off the top of my head, folks. So I picked Start the Fire. I think it's a pretty cool song. They played it when we went to go see them, so that was pretty cool, huh?
Yeah, that was cool.
All right, Megadeth, Peace Sells. So I think we talked about this recently because we did the Megadeth's Greatest Hits a few episodes back. Peace Sells is an album, you have a high regard for this album. I have a high regard for the album, but when I look at the overall, it's got a cover on it. So you got 8 songs, it's got a cover, 7 originals. Peace Sells is probably the biggest standout. Wake Up Dead to me. A lot of people like The Conjuring. I never got into The Conjuring. Devil's Island is a decent song. I've never really got into that. Although if I listen to it now, I mean, I probably listened to it so much back in the day that I know all the songs, I know all the riffs. But my favorite are going to be Wake Up Dead, and it's going to be Peace Sells. In this particular case, it had to be Peace Sells on this mixtape. All right, we got 2 songs left on this total running time of 44 minutes and 8 seconds. Metallica, Disposable Heroes. A lot of people would have thought that I would have put Master Puppets or Battery, but Disposable Heroes, man, when I first heard that break where he goes, I was born for dying. Oh my God, dude, I was just like chills. I'm like, this is a kind of song that I've always wanted to hear. And there it was. So that's second favorite Metallica album for a reason. All right.
What? It wasn't what I thought you were going to pick, but I guess I'm also not surprised because I think you could have potentially picked anything off of the album.
Oh yeah, I mean, it's like I could pick Welcome Home, and there's no bad choice, on that album at all. It was literally a toss up between Disposable Heroes and Damage Incorporated, and I picked Disposable. I used to love Damage Incorporated when I was younger and played it all the time. Just the whole part about fuck it all and fucking no regrets, never happy endings on these dark sets. I love that line. And then the whole part where he was, you hit that drum roll, Damage Incorporated. That right there is fucking spine tingling.
Mm-hmm.
So but I love Disposable Heroes is just a fucking cool song. It just hits you so hard. All right, and I'm gonna finish the tape, song number 9, with Motorhead, Orgasmatron. Love that song. And I actually like the Sepultura version just as much. So that's my mixtape from 1986.
Okay. We actually had a couple crossovers there. So I guess we'll see that when I do my side 2 or side B. All right. Well, obviously you were able to fit 2 more songs on your side tonight. I couldn't afford the 90-minute tape. I had to settle for 60 minutes. But okay, let me start my side B. This one might surprise people. I picked Valhalla from Crimson Glory, from their first album. That's a band we've never really talked about before, but I really like that first album. It was one that I didn't discover until fairly recently, actually. Shout out to Metal School and their YouTube channel. I first discovered Crimson Glory through them, and it's actually a really cool concept. If you're not familiar with the band, they wore masks when they first started, and it was more like kind of theatrical. And the singer Midnight, I mean, things changed over time, but originally wanted everything to be kind of like pantomime and theatrical, and then they unmasked much like Kiss, and I don't think anything ever really got better or back together, but that first album I think is really good. I believe Midnight's passed away since, but yeah, just a really cool opener. The riff is awesome. If you like harmony guitars, which I think most of our listeners probably do, it's a one to check out. My track two is probably another real deep cut, and unless you were,
Before you go on, sorry.
oh,
Um, so the band still exists, Crimson Glory. Obviously, different band members and stuff like that. But Tata Torre of Queensryche was a vocalist for 3 years.
yeah, briefly, only recorded one song.
Which is weird. You're in a band for 3 years, but you only did one song.
Yeah.
So, but yeah, I mean it's still pretty cool. And Todd LaTorre obviously left Crimson Glory to join Queensryche. I think it was a better deal. I don't know. You tell me.
Yeah.
All right, I'm sorry.
Oh no, it's I didn't realize that Crimson Glory had got back together. I guess it was 2023. Interesting. Okay, so track two, another real deep cut, and unless you were a child in the '80s, you probably don't know this one. "Instruments of Destruction" by NRG. Now that's actually from Transformers the movie soundtrack. I've talked about this before. It's one of the movies and soundtracks that got me into metal. The movie came out obviously in 1986. I was probably about 2 when I first saw it, and I've been kind of obsessed with it ever since. It's one of the things that got me into animation when I was a kid, and that's actually what my degree was in. Multiple things in my life have been influenced by this, and this is the song that, like, it's probably the most brutal scene in the movie where like multiple characters die, and for a child's movie in 1986 it was traumatic for a lot of kids. For me, it was the heaviest metal song on the album, and I thought it was badass. So yeah. If you have heard the song and you aren't aware, there is an original lyric version before they censored it and they made them change a few lyrics. It's really cool. It's on YouTube. If you haven't heard the song "Instruments of Destruction" by NRG, check it out on YouTube or pretty much anything. I think it's available widely on any platform now. So badass song. My number three is "Shy Boy" from David Lee Roth, "Eat 'Em and Smile." That is my favorite song in that album. I really like Yankee Rose, but I like Shy Boy more because it's just really fast and heavy. Heavy may not be the best description, but it's definitely really fast, and the drum beat's kind of heavy. So it's one of those that, like, that lineup with Billy Sheehan and
Steve Vai.
Steve Vai. Steve Vai, man, that was the best lineup he had, period. And yeah, it's just like that album's a lot of fun. And obviously I put Van Halen on the first half. So I mean, I'm a big fan of both versions of Van Halen, and I say both because I don't know if anyone's a fan of any other version of Van Halen. But you know what I mean. My track four is "Halloween" from King Diamond. That's where we have some crossover. Yeah, it's a really cool song. We talked about it. You go back and listen to that episode for the head to head with "Don't Break the Oath." But Fatal Portrait's a really cool album. I didn't give it a lot of attention when I first started getting into King Diamond and Merciful Fate. But us doing that head to head really kind of like highlighted how much or how good the album was, and I'm glad I went back and listened to it. It's not my favorite. I think Abigail's still my favorite from King Diamond. And then Melissa probably my favorite from Merciful Fate. But badass song.
Yes, badass song. Actually, sorry to interrupt you again. I've referenced this before. The podcast from Brian Slagle, the top 100 songs of heavy metal. he just did an episode with Andy LaRock, talking about the
Of
seventh
Death
day. Okay. King
That's where
Diamond's
most
guitar.
people would know him from. That one album he did with Death.
Right. Okay, you go with that one. No, so yeah, longtime King Diamond guitarist. He actually wasn't in the original King Diamond band, and that was one of the things that he talks about. But he did the album. They were talking about the 7th day of July, 1777. And he was talking about a little bit about the production and the release of the album. So he mentioned a little bit about Fatal Portrait. It's a pretty cool interview. Gives a lot of really cool insight onto the making of Abigail and stuff like that. So check it out. I mean, it's a really cool podcast.
So who was before Andy LaRock then?
It was just he didn't record the album. Andy came on board during the recording of Fatal Portrait. So they didn't. I think they were still in like.
So did Michael Dennard play all the guitars on it? Because I mean, he's credited on the album.
No, Michael Dennard played guitars, and so did Andy. They had 2 guitar players.
Oh, but you mean like he didn't write any of the songs from that album?
No.
Or okay, interesting. Okay, I mean, I know King writes a lot of the music himself, so.
Yeah, the first album was done mostly between King and Michael Denner.
That makes sense. Okay, well, interesting. Like I really didn't know that. So, I actually I want to mention this. I just got the comic book of Abigail. I'm gonna read it and check it out, and I'll let you know what I think.
Oh, cool.
All right. And then so our next crossover is Peace Sells by Megadeth. That's my track 5. It's my favorite song on the album. Wake Up Dead would be my number 2. I mean, I love the whole album. We talked about this recently. But I mean, by far, like I had to think about it. And sometimes like my instinct is to go for that deep cut or whatever it may be, but sometimes I got to just go with like what I really feel. Obviously all the time I go with what I really feel, but like sometimes that basic bitch song, like the one that everybody expects, that's the one. It's the best for a reason, you know? So
Oh yeah, I mean deep cuts. So to me, deep cuts are songs that kind of grow on you, that you, because you've listened to the album for so much that you really like a song. I mean, so like that's why like Wake Up Dead, while it starts the album, there was always something about that album that kind of just seemed, I don't know, it's hard. The production's really good when I think back about it now, but when I was younger, there was always something that was different to me about Megadeth and that album.
Yeah.
And Peace Sells was kind of the more, for what it's worth, more mainstream portion of that album. But so it had the biggest hook, and it was also MTV fame. It was one of the first thrash bands to have a video on MTV. So it was a lot to it, and Wake Up Dead. There's this kind of controlled chaos with that song that it kind of always threw me off for a bit, you know.
Mm-hmm. I love opening tracks to albums. Like I'm one of those guys that I can put a mixtape together or just a mix. I mean, I don't really do too many mixtapes anymore, but I can put a mix together and I'll have a ton of opening tracks. There's something about the energy of an opening track that, like, especially when I go to the gym and stuff like that, like there's that excitement of all that, and it keeps me like pumped. So I mean, in the future, when we do stuff like this, it may have a lot of opening tracks. We'll see. But
we may do just an opening track mixtape.
Who knows? Maybe. All right. So I got 2 more tracks. So I've got track 6 is "To Hell with the Devil" by Stryper. Did you expect that from me?
Not from you, but it was almost on my my thing. I did not pick that song. I did not pick that album or anything, but I did look at it, and I'm like, I did listen to it, but it wasn't one of my favorites of that year. So
I gotcha. Yeah, it's a really cool track, and Striper's not anywhere near my top 10 or anything, but they've got some great songs. They've grown on me because you know, I wasn't really into Michael Sweet's vocals, but they grew on me, like, and the music, like, I know some people don't like the theme or anything like that, like, but for me, I don't really care what religion or anything like that a song's about, as long as the song is cool. And to hell with the Devil's a really cool song. Like Soldiers Under Command is a really cool song. There's a few that I like. There's some that I'm just like, I can't
yeah,
listen.
some are too sappy.
The sappy ones are the ones I have a problem with. But when
Yeah,
like, they're great, and the guitar work is so good in that band, and so that's what really draws me to them, as I've kind of gotten into them. But I think it's just such an awesome track that it fit pretty well on here too. And then my final track is one I've mentioned many times, and I kind of feel like you might laugh on this one, is The Loneliness of the Long Distance Runner. Um, I know it's probably not on many people's list, but as far as in the context of the album, I love it. But also, it's just one that really, like, sticks in my head and has grown on me tremendously, and I love the song. So I thought about Wasted Years. I had it in there for a while. I even thought about Stranger in a Strange Land. I mean, I really could have picked most songs on that album and been fine with it. But I also, like, when you're doing these mixes and you're really planning it out, you got to think about, like, at least for me, like, I think about the pacing. I think about, it being the final track, kind of winding down, or, like, I placed Princes of the Universe on the first side that way, in that placement for a reason. And everything I do, like, I want each song to flow into the next one. And, like, this one, that's where it fit for me, and I thought it was a really, like, fun way to end the album, at least for me. So, yeah, like, I got 7 and 7 on each side. I used almost the full side this time. I was like 23 seconds short. But that's fine. I'm good with that.
no, absolutely. I remember when you and I were going to go see Iron Maiden in Dallas, or actually it was in Fort Worth. Um,
Mhm.
we talked about Loneliness of the Long Distance Runner, and you were hoping that they might play it, and I'm like, he has no fucking chance in hell that they're playing that song. um,
Yeah, you know what though? Every time I've said that, not every time, but I have a pretty good rate of saying some weird song like that, and then they end up playing it.
well, that one they've only played once ever.
Yeah.
I believe either once or twice, and it was never played again.
But
And that was
we've been to shows where I said, like, I want them to play this song, and you're like, there's no fucking way, and then like, they play it.
yeah, there's been that couple times.
Yeah.
To going back to your Striper thing, I agree with you in terms of the heaviness. They got certain really good songs that are really heavy. To Hell with the Devils, Soldiers Under Command.
Mhm.
There's another song on Soldiers that I like. It's called Reach Out. Those songs are really good songs. Oz Fox gets most of the credit as the guitar player on those things, but actually, if you've ever listened to, not you necessarily, but the audience out there, if you ever listen to Striper, pay close attention. It's dual leads playing
Mhm.
the lead guitar. Both Michael and Oz Fox are playing the same leads together.
Michael's a great guitarist. Like,
He's a
he's very
great guitar
underrated.
player.
Yeah.
Yes, he's a great guitar player. And so it was funny because he pointed that out on the podcast I listened to. I think it was with Eddie Trunk. He's like, I play because not a lot of people realize this, but we play harmony lead guitars together. That's been the entire existence of Stryper. He goes,
Mhm.
so I play lead guitar. I don't just play rhythm. So that's one of those things. I mean, some people make that they don't make that connection, but I knew he played lead guitar just from being a fan back in the day. So interesting. I like the list. I mean, it's definitely very similar. You got a heaviness on one side and a lightness on another side. Like
Yes.
if you would have put Stryper in swap of Metallica, you may have. I mean, the times may have been a little off, but that probably would have put all like the heavy on one side and the hard on the other. So. But yeah, no, it's pretty cool. Although I'm looking at just saying going from Slayer to Secret Loser is kind of an odd thing.
But
It's
listen
very
to the
catchy.
way listen to the transition though, and it works really well.
And that's I'm all about those things when I've done these kinds of things.
Uh-huh.
Man, it's like I did a Van Halen greatest hits one time, and I remember specifically going from Unchained. Now you know how at the end of Unchained it just has that little boom kind of guitar pluck that's really really fading out. It's in the background.
Yeah.
Well, that little guitar pluck, I would lead that straight into. I would blend mix sort of like a radio station. That would go right into Take My Whiskey Home, where all of a sudden now he's playing that acoustic guitar really hard. And that was for the longest time in my head. That is the way those two songs always succeeded each other. And when I've made greatest hit CDs, I've put those songs together, but it never laid itself out the same way I had done it when I had mixed the greatest hits. Like when I mixed it on tape, because when I did it on tape, it was almost like a live recording because I literally ran straight through, like you mentioned earlier, like in real time.
Mhm.
I mixed these in real time. So it was, I was basically going turntable to turntable and I was crossing over with no gaps in between. So that was fun. I used to I love that shit.
It was a lot of fun back then.
It was. All right. So now my side too, I mistakenly did my 45 minutes. I'm sorry. Sorry. Okay. So here's a crossover. My song number 1, crossing over with one of your songs, Wasp. And I included the intro, The Big Welcome and Inside the Electric Circus. It just runs together, very similar to like
That's fair. Yeah.
Helion Electric Eye, So I know that one of our rules for doing this was not to have 2 songs, but this was just one song, really.
Yeah, that counts. Like when they if you picked a Hellion Electric Eye for one, like I'm not going to be upset because they have to go together.
Exactly.
Yeah.
Now it would have been different if it would have been a Heartbreaker and Living Loving Woman from Led Zeppelin, because those are 2 full blown songs.
Yeah, what would be messed up though is if you just picked like the Hellion and then not Electric Eye, and it goes into something else, so you just get like blue balls,
Well, it's funny. You got to find the right song so that when it goes into the cymbal crash, it goes into like some sort of explosion on the second song. So anyhow, Wasp, the Big Welcome, Inside the Electric Circus, my first song on side 2. Number 2 on side 2, David Lee Roth from Eat 'Em and Smile. It's going to be Yankee Rose. I was going to go with Shy Boy, the Van Halen imitation song. But Yankee Rose is just one of those, man. I remember when that song came out and I sang that shit for months. It was just such a really cool song. Watching the video,
you were just singing the wow 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 wow
yeah.
wow.
It was such a knowing that Van Halen had released 5150 and they had this big hit with Why Can't This Be Love. When I hear David Lee Roth come out, I'm like, all right, this better be good. This has got to be good for all the shit that he talked, in between. And then, he released the EP the year before with California Girls on it. This was a very welcome addition to his repertoire at the time.
Yeah, I mean, I think that the EP was fun. Because it's Dave being Dave, but like he needed to follow it with something better, and he did. Like, I mean, he knocked it out of the park with that album.
Oh, absolutely. And I got the Spanish version of that album too.
I do not.
It's so cool because he literally redid the vocals in Spanish.
Yeah, I mean, I've heard it before. It's cool. I've just never seen it in the wild, and
I
I also sold all my CDs, as many of you guys know.
Let me see. I think I do have a version of it on CD, but I will double check. Anyhow, moving on. Number 3, Yngwie Malmsteen. You Don't Remember, I'll Never Forget off of Trilogy. That's a pretty cool song.
It's a good album.
It's a good album. I mean, the first 3 albums that he put out were excellent. While we all knew he had an ego, it hadn't exploded like it is now. He actually had a singer.
Is so entertaining, though.
It is entertaining, but I think the first 2 albums had Jeff Scott Soto on it, and then this song, I forgot who the singer is. I thought at first it was Jolene Turner, but it's not. It's
No, that is Odyssey.
Is it Mark something?
On Trilogy, it's Mark Bowles.
Mark Bowles. Yeah, I knew it was a Mark. It's Mark Bowles. So and really did a great job on it. He was obviously a hired gun for the album. He's probably thinking, "Yeah, I'm joining the band." No, sorry, you're fired.
That story applies to all Yngwie singers,
yes,
except for Yngwie.
Except for Yngwie, he can't fire himself.
So I'm sure he would.
Although I got to tell you, I'm looking at the certifications and sales. I mean, he got a gold record from Japan for Fire and Ice, platinum for The Seventh Sign, gold for Inspiration, and gold for Facing the Animal, which is all stuff that came out in the 90s. But he's done a lot. I mean, he's been huge in Japan his entire career.
Yeah.
So that's pretty cool. Anyhow, I loved Yngwie. Quick story on Yngwie. He opened up the second concert I ever went to go see. So first one was Iron Maiden, along with Queensryche at Radio City Music Hall. Second one was AC/DC, the Fly on the Wall tour. Yngwie Malmsteen was the opening act. Booed off the stage. Off the stage. I mean, he played his whole show, but they were just not. They were not dealing with it. I don't know what disconnect was there, but there were some boos. That's for sure. Anyhow, song number 4, Lizzie Borden, Notorious. It's a very similar, along the same lines as Crimson Glory. It's one of those bands that you just, if you know kind of thing. Lizzie Borden was on Metal Blade Records. They had a really big, well, not really big. They had a good following based off of their first 2 records, an EP and their first album. Hit song for them was a song called American Metal, which at the time was just big, and then they they released a live album that kind of, I don't know if it slowed down their career, but things started to happen, and then they released an EP, another one. It's like, what's going on here? And then Notorious came out, and that was pretty cool.
There's some similarities for Crimson Glory. I mean, doesn't he wear a mask and everything too?
No, so it was funny on the Master of Disguise. He wore a mask. It was part of the whole gimmick, but no, he did not wear a mask. He just had really bad fucking hair. that was some of the worst hair. Like, I'm a hair guy. Okay. Yeah. And we've talked about this before, like Mike Inez, my favorite hair in metal. But Lizzie Borden, the worst hairdo in heavy metal. It was just horrible. I mean, for some people, if that's what you got, that's what you got, and you deal with it. I mean, it's long hair. It was dry. It was kinky. It was just bad. Um,
It looks
but
like he wore a mask sometime. Maybe I'm remembering this. It looks like he wore a mask like sometime during the 2000s.
oh, I think so. Yes, I think that was part of a gimmick that he was doing in the 2000s. Yes.
Okay. Yeah, because I again shouting out Metal School. I watched the Lizzie Borden episode of that one, and pretty cool. I haven't really given a lot of attention to the band, and I probably should check out a few more things. But yeah, interesting one.
Yeah, they went through like a goth industrial phase. They didn't release music, but they they disbanded in 97, got back together a couple years later, and then disbanded in 2004-ish somewhere, until 2006. So they've disbanded, but the discography, it goes into the all of the 80s, one album which was the greatest hits in the 90s, nothing until 2000. So
Mm.
they've done, on and off. I mean, I always never got a chance to see them. I always wanted to. I thought they were going to be pretty good. I mean, when American Metal off their first album uh, was a pretty solid song, and the first album was really good. It's one of my favorites, like independent albums. But they didn't catch the hook again like they did on that first album. So,
Mm.
all right, moving on. Song number 5 on my cassette, Rat, with Body Talk. Uh,
Ooh.
what do you mean, boo? Did you boo?
Yeah, I did boo.
Why are you booing?
I just don't like Rat. We've
That
talked about it. We did a head to head with Rat, and I was like, this is all the Rat I will ever listen to ever again.
Dancing Undercover is a really cool album. They got the song Dance, they got song Slip of the Lip, but Body Talk it's a really fast song for them. It's got a nice little chugging guitar riff. I really, really like that song. I believe that song was on a soundtrack. Um, let's see. Yes, it was on Eddie Murphy's movie The Golden Child. But I heard it on the radio with, uh, when the album came out and stuff like that. Really cool. I like the album, and that was like the third single. But at the time when I first got the album, I was instantly attracted to that song just because of the speed and the riff. Um,
Mhm.
for me, the initial listen to that was a deep track, but then I liked the song so much, and I kept listening to it, and then I was like so happy to hear that it became a single. Not that I gained anything from that, but you know, it was like, oh, cool. The song I like is a single now. So anyway, song number 6, Cinderella, Push Push, off their debut album, Night Songs. Now that's one I had to go back and forth with. Like, do I want to use this song or do I want to go with um, the big hingle, the big,
You just pulled a me.
yeah, the big single that they had of Shake Me. Because I mean, obviously the huge hit on there was it the ballad that they had on
Nobody's
that
fool.
album, Nobody's Fool. So that was a big, that kind of put them over the top. But Push Push was towards the end of side 1, I think it was, and it's just got a killer riff, killer rhythm. The whole album. I mean, Night Songs to me, from Cinderella front to backer. So
I gotta
that,
say, the music videos from that album are great too, because they're all tied together, and they have like the Wicked Stepsisters,
yes.
and I guess Cinderella is a character throughout them, but
Mhm.
they're a lot of fun. Like good music videos. Go back and watch them.
Yeah, no, they're pretty cool. And Bon Jovi makes cameos in there.
Yes.
So
Which is really funny because at one point like the girls are like oh my god, so they think that they're coming to the Cinderella guys and they go past them to the Bon Jovi guys. That's pretty funny. Yeah.
yeah,
So they
well,
had a little bit of a sense of humor, you know.
yeah, no, of course. Since Bon Jovi helped him get signed.
Yeah.
Speaking of Bon Jovi, that's my next song number 7. You Give Love a Bad Name, off of their Monster album, Slippery When Wet.
Oh, from the Bon Jovi cover band
Bunch-
or
yeah,
whatever it was. On Wikipedia, I mean, not on Wikipedia, on Google, I was typing in like just to remind myself like 1986 metal band or metal albums, and it's like the top albums, and it's like Slippery When Wet from Bon Jovi, the Bon Jovi cover band or something like that. Like, what the hell?
yeah, that was kind of weird when you showed me that. Well, this is the real Bon Jovi. You Give Love a Bad Name. That song was just huge, especially where I was growing up in New York, and I didn't jump on Wanted Dead or Alive until much later, but You Give Love a Bad Name was just a bomb of a song. So, number 8, Ozzy Osbourne, Shot in the Dark. I could have picked a couple of different songs off this album that I liked a lot. I liked Killer of Giants. Well, it was Killer Ballad. Um, but I also liked The Ultimate Sin. I thought that song was good. Secret Loser wasn't one of my favorite tracks off of that album, but it's got such a hook that it's like one of those songs that you can't forget once you hear it. So I think that's a positive, obviously, for it, but that wasn't one of my favorites. But then The Shot in the Dark, it's so funny because it stands out so much by itself, but it's got such a hook to it that it just drags you in and says, yeah, this is the song that you want to listen to. You know,
It almost has a different recording quality on it too. It's really weird.
I agree. I think so too. You know, it's one of those, like we've talked about it before, where they just pick one song and they produced a shit out of it. And I think that was what happened here. And it also, I think, you know, a lot of times when they prepare a song to be a single before the album comes out, that's another one of those things that they work on it so much because they know it's going to be a single that happens, and they put the rest of the album together, and it doesn't get the same attention.
Yep.
You know? So anyhow, song number 9, Poison, Look What the Cat Dragged In. The riff, amazing riff. I mean, it sounds like all the other chugging style riffs, but that song is so different from the rest of the album that it stands out to me so much. Like I like the song Cry Tough. That's okay. You know, the ballad, I Won't Forget You, you know, Talk Dirty to Me, huge song. That's a killer riff as well. But Look What the Cat Dragged In.
Yeah.
I like, to me, my favorite song is Look What the Cat Dragged In on that album.
Fair enough.
So, all right, song number 10. I got 2 more songs. Song number 10, similar crossover to yours. Well, not similar, exact same crossover. Queensryche, Walk in the Shadows. It took me a long time to figure out that album. To the point that to this day, there's certain songs I'm like, you know, but I've opened up my mind to some of the other songs that are on the album, and it's just an amazing album. Not my favorite album. I know it's yours, but
it's very progressive.
It's very progressive.
Yeah.
But so progressive that, you know, Kenneth Dean here dressed like a combination of all 5 guys from the band to his prom.
That's funny.
And so much so, I even showed the guys in Queensryche that I did that when I met them in like 2016 or something like that. All right, now the last song on this album is going to be the last song that probably was released that year in terms of hard rock and heavy metal. It's from Tesla's debut album. It's Modern Day Cowboy, the lead-in single to their debut release, and so it came out in December of 1986. Like the second week or December 8th. I can't remember, the first or second week of December. So that song, Modern Day Cowboy, was so cool. And then you buy the album and it's like, this isn't your typical hair metal kind of, you know, at the time it wasn't hair metal, you know, this isn't your typical pop metal. You know, this wasn't Poison. It wasn't Bon Jovi. This was a band that had they had some chops for sure. And, Modern Day Cowboy is a pretty good song. Pretty cool song. I like it.
Yeah, I actually had it on my list and then I cut it because I didn't have extra 30 minutes.
Sorry. All right. So next time we do this, you get the 90-minute tape and I get the 60.
You get stuck with 60. All
Yeah.
right. All right. I'm good with that.
So real brief, talking about the tapes, and I know there's going to be a segment of our audience that has no fucking clue what we're talking about. And then there's another segment of our audience, which is probably the larger segment, that like, oh yeah, I did that. I did this, So the tapes that I used back in the day, you kind of mentioned it earlier, I think the TDK-D series, D60s, D90s, there was D120s. 120s were so sensitive though, that if you didn't have a good player, you couldn't play a 120 because it would get chewed up. But then I graduated to like the SA series, which was like the high position and shit like that. But I grew into a really cool thing, Maxell XL2S series. That became my go-to tape because the plastic was a little bit kind of, I don't want to say if it was thicker, but it was like different plastic. It wasn't hard plastic. It was kind of like softish, not in a way that it bends or anything like that, but I don't know. There was a different feel to it, and it made the cassettes quieter. And so it had a better quality to it, the whole thing. Maybe that's why it cost a little bit more. I don't know. So that's what I used to make these mixtapes back in the day.
I mean, it's hard for me to remember. I remember having a huge variety of tapes, and obviously they wouldn't have been from the 80s for the most part. They would have been from the 90s. And I mean, I wish I could remember what they were, but I don't know. Maybe my dad still has some of them. He's still got some, like pretty much all their cassettes from when we were growing up. So I'd be interested to see.
That would be cool. I mean, I in preparation of this episode tonight, I told you I took out my box of tapes and I looked at it, and I had forgotten all about my Maxell obsession because I got to a point where I started re-recording some of my, like I would put albums on the cassette, 45-minute albums on each side. And I would start re-recording them because I'm like, this sounds so much better, because I know cassettes always had a hiss, but I was always looking for the next best sounding thing. And those cheap cassettes just sounded like shit.
Yeah.
And I had a pretty cool system in my car. So I'm like, okay, what do I do here? So I started re-recording, spending more money. So anyhow, well, we don't have a big four tonight because we just didn't think of one in time. So that being said, that is the end of tonight's episode. If you're a first-time listener, please click like or subscribe on your favorite podcast platform to get our latest episode as soon as it drops. For longtime listeners, we appreciate your loyalty and dedication, and that's just to say thank you to everyone for listening.
And don't forget you can interact with us on Facebook, Instagram, and on X, or send us an email to debatingmetal@gmail.com. YouTube viewers, click subscribe and ring the bell to be notified when we post a new show. And remember, tune in to the next episode where we'll spark up another exciting metal debate. On behalf of Kenneth and myself, stay safe and always turn it up to 11.
See ya!